Hi Libra, it's Jenny here with your April Tarot horoscope. So we're just going to pull a single card for the month of April to see what is coming up. So the first 2/3 of April is Aries season. We're in an energetic new year now since the March equinox, and then towards the end of the month we're going to be in Taurus season. And I got a card that came out for you here today. So Libra, we have the Ten of Cups reversed. So this is what it looks like the right way up. So we have these two figures, arm in arm, and above them we have all of these cups and this sort of rainbow of color here. Some fruit down here and some kind of stylized waves. And right in her arm she's got a little fish, a little pet fish, why not? And it came out upside down like that. So we're going to see what the Ten of Cups has to say. Okay. Ten of Cups, intense feelings. This is the card of great emotion and high times. Fire and water unite to form a rainbow. High, heaven, and low, fish, begin to move and unite. The red, wavy lines indicate how the blood boils and how the pressure in your cups, emotions, has built up. This is the card of great desires and passions coming true, but also of false romanticism and intoxication. How can you have one and avoid the other? 10 cups in a rainbow signify a well-rounded sense of security and the safety that comes from trust. In a negative sense, it signifies a defensive force field, a magnetic shield, or a glass ceiling, which are all hard to penetrate. Any hermetic ideas about life, love, or faith function at best as a sort of hothouse. They provide shelter and warmth, but they keep real life out. They create a force field, but cannot fulfill the essential needs of the individual. The two central figures have been taken from a painting by Giuseppe Bonito and the three peaches from the 1638 painting The Five Senses by Jacques Leonard. A wise combination, since all forms of false and harmful passions dull the senses, whereas joyful and wholesome passions are uplifting. It is this deep sensitivity that determines our happiness in high times of great emotion. Practical advice. Don't be afraid of oceanic feelings. This is a perfect opportunity to take a fearless look at powerful and bold passions. The more you learn to assess the degree to which you can truly trust yourself and others, the more secure you will feel. This is a test of your self-awareness and knowledge of human nature. Okay, so this is an interesting one. So 10 of Cups in Tarot, 10 is the final number of each suit, and it's kind of like this completion. You have it all, this totality here. You've got all the feelings, like it doesn't get more robust than this. But this card has this interesting quality of like, yes, you could be celebrating under this rainbow. You have all the cups possible. You've got all, like, there's nothing left wanting. And yet there's this problem of, like with this image of the hothouse or having like things kind of sealed in, is that sometimes you then have nowhere to go. So once you have this like great amount of like once you have it all, then that's kind of where things stop. Like there can be this this dullness, this lethargy that can happen. Whereas when there's like a little bit of discomfort, there's still that striving and there's still this growth. So there's this possibility of you can either be like thriving in this like great rainbow of emotion. You've got everything, this like reaping this pleasure and reaping the rewards of hard work, and just like feeling this wealth of emotion. And then that's this really wonderful thing, but the cycle is always supposed to continue again. So it's this invitation, this kind of ending and beginning where, okay, you have reached the culmination, but you can't stop. Or if you do, then it starts to, you're just recycling the air in the hothouse, and you're not actually getting new life. It feels kind of stifling. Eventually you're just like, this heat's overwhelming. This is just kind of the same. There's no change. There's no growth. So there's but you also don't want to rush to it. Like, it's not like, oh, you finally made it. You've got all of these emotions. You've got this bounty. Generally, this card in lots of other decks is like this bountiful card. Like, this is everything you could ever want. All your dreams come true. And in this deck, the Salvador Dali deck has a kind of different. It doesn't really press on that jubilation like a lot of other decks do. It kind of goes either way here, as with lots of things. It's kind of, there's always two options. It can be the best version or it can be the worst version. So I'm sort of feeling, which is, this is a really, this kind of really ties into the energy of Aries season, because so Aries itself is a fire sign, and when the sun comes into Aries, which we had on March equinox and is going to be there till towards the end of April, so there's now new themes of Aries, like fire energy, new life coming up. However, we do have, the season we just came from was Pisces, which is a water sign, and we still have a lot of planets that are actually going to be in Pisces for a while. Mars and Venus are heading into Pisces. And so we have this fire element, this new Aries season, and we still have this holdover of Pisces. And Pisces is the previous energetic year. So it's kind of like with Pisces, we have this end of the cycle and this full culmination, last of the zodiac, kind of feeling like this 10 cups energy of, this is the fullness, this is the completion, this is the end of the story, and this is what you've gained from it. And then Aries season is like, so then what's next? What do we do with the next chapter? We're going to roll over into this area of new discovery. And that's that invitation of bringing in some new fresh air into that hothouse and not having it just be stuck there. Also interesting here, this card is talking about fire and water uniting together, and that's exactly what we have with Aries energy and Pisces energy, is fire and water coming together, which can produce steam. It can produce a lot of like that. When you're thinking of in a hothouse, in a greenhouse, humidity is what you're going for. You're going with like, it's dispersing all of that like watery goodness in the air, and it's super useful and helpful. But it can also just become really stifling if you don't have things kind of freshen up. So there's this possibility of Aries season for this month, this April. It's not as fiery as it could be, because we still have all this water energy. So I would actually really highly suggest you go check out my Aries season forecast. It has a lot more details on that Pisces and Aries combination that we're dealing with the different planets. It's a pay what you can workshop, so it's super accessible. It's on my YouTube channel, and I think that in particular this card, because it has these fire water elements, feels really tied to a lot of the energy that's happening in Aries season right now. So I would definitely go check that out. So just bringing it back into the card here, there's this, it comes kind of towards the end, where it's also talking about passions and the senses, in that our senses are like we can have our senses be dulled by too much like opulence, or if we stay in this hothouse of emotions and this watery kind of all of these cups, whatever it is that we've gained from the last season, if we stay too long, it's kind of just like, getting a little bit too much of your drink on, or eating a little bit too much rich food. What feels like pleasure on the senses can eventually overwhelm them and dull them. But our senses are also this vessel, or this vector of joy, of how we sense the world, and how we can like really experience a lot of joy. So this card is also like, again, it's got that dual edge of enjoying our senses and really reveling in that which we've gained and achieved is really beautiful up to a point. There's this invitation for moderation and temperance, which is, well, how much is the right amount? It's going to vary per person. It's going to vary depending on time and a lot of other factors. So you kind of have to just be discerning for yourself of, how long can I stay in this season of abundance with all of these cups and this rainbow hothouse? And when is that just going to like make me feel sticky and a bit drunk? Like, I need to move on to the next thing. I need to sober up. I need to bring on the next adventure. Towards the end of the month, we're going to roll into Taurus season. And Taurus is actually really great with pleasure. Taurus is all about the body, is ruled by Venus as well, which is all about pleasure and joy. So Taurus is the great receiver. Super, when Taurus is like in their element in a healthy way, they're so gracious, like full of gratitude and like loving life for what it feels like and really basking in the experience of having a body and the physical senses. Taurus is great at the physical senses, being an earth sign, and Taurus is actually kind of like your sister sign, Libra, because both Libra and Taurus are ruled by Venus. So you both kind of have these elements of like a really enjoying life and like partaking of it, whether that's in music, dance, art, the physical sensations, sensuality, whatever it is. Like you two kind of like, so when we're getting to the end of April, I feel like it's going to feel really in your element as well, because that's your ruling planet as well. But then there's again that issue of, when does it become too decadent? Taurus, the downside of Taurus is just getting like a little bit too, and like just a little too lethargic, or I guess if we're looking at the 7 deadly sins here, like the sloth or gluttony aspect of like just being so indulgent of all the wealth that then there's no reason to leave. There's no reason to strive anymore. And you can just sort of get hung up on it, and then just get too like, Taurus can be like, no, I want all the things. I don't want to give anything up because it makes me feel good and it makes me feel safe. So in this Taurus season, like, again, this is a really interesting card for you this month. Like, has a lot of like you can have a great time, but don't have too good of a time, because then you're not going to move on to the next thing, is kind of like the sum up of all of this. It's like, really enjoy the riches and the culmination of what you've experienced and what you've worked through this past year. Do enjoy it. Enjoy it in the emotional realm, celebrate, be happy, enjoy it in the physical realm, experience pleasure and joy, but know your limit and know when it is no longer going to be helpful and it's just going to trap you there. And then eventually you're going to get dragged out instead of stepping out into the next new thing. So I think that you might do better at this than if somebody else got this card, because like one of your, like particularly Libra, is the sign of balance, is the sign of justice and balance. The sign is signified by the scales. And so if anybody's going to do well with moderation, it's probably going to be you. Like, you're probably going to be able to make that discernment if you know to look out for it. If you know to be like, yeah, okay, this is kind of the energy that's going on. I don't want to rush through my celebration, but I also I just need to know the right thing at the right time. So use your discernment and your ability to measure and sort of see things for how they are. And also know that this is your card. There's a lot of energy, like the fiery water energy of the Pisces Aries combo this season is going to be present for everybody, but this particular card is your reading. And so like, you want to make sure that you don't project this too much on other people. Like, if it's their time to, like, they're exhausted from last year and they really they need to just have some decadence and just feel good, just because you might be done and be ready to move on to the next thing, it doesn't mean that it's that like everybody else is doing it wrong if they're doing it their way. Likewise, if some people are like, it's their energy to like get into things and get fired up and get moving, and then they're in judgment to you, being like, come on, get working, like stop enjoying all this, like it's serious, new year, like gotta do things, and you're like, whoa, don't feel rushed by that either. This is moderation for you. The right time, the right thing at the right measure is going to be very individual. So like, do the balance for yourself, and like kind of like everybody else can just F off. Like, if they're being all weird at you, like this is your time, and you get to be the like discerning key figure, which kind of brings up another element of Aries season, which is the ego, the self. Aries season is a really like a great injection of returning back to you as an individual. We just came from Pisces season, which is very much about collective energy and feeling the feels of everybody else and like the suffering of the world, being really immersed in that. And you, Libra, being a very interpersonal sign, you may have felt that more than other people, of like feeling how the world affects others and affects the people you're in relationship to, and how the people you are around feel really impacts you. But Aries is like, it's inviting you to pull back into yourself. And this is actually your polarized sign. Aries and Libra are kind of opposite ends of the zodiac. And so whereas Aries season is very much about the self, Libra, a lot of your exploration is how you understand the self through your relationship to others. So this can both be a challenging season because it's inviting you to like actually really step into your ego. What do you want? Don't be too concerned about other people. Don't be overly invested in, you know, pleasing your partners or like what your friendships are at. Like, don't just look into the mirror of another person to see yourself. Like, do try to stand on your own kind of ego here. But for you in particular, part of your exploration of understanding yourself and really getting a sense of that ego for you more than others is going to be in relationship to others. So even though Aries season really invites you standing in your own kind of sense of self, it's fine if you find that that's really challenging to do alone. Like if being in isolation really doesn't give you any more sense of who you are, then doing it with friendships or partnerships as well, like being able to see the mirrored soul of somebody else and understand and reflect your own sense of identity, go for it. Again, in moderation, right measure at the right time. Ultimately, the balance right now in Aries season is towards the self. So you can look at another, you can certainly still do the kind of like Libra balance with another person, but if you're unsure where the scales should tip, Aries season, they probably need to tip to your own needs. And that's okay because your other person or the people you're around should be tipping their scales to their needs. So nobody should be getting left alone, or sorry, like nobody should not be getting their needs met. It's just now's a great time to be in charge of your own needs and allowing other people to be in charge of theirs. And then other times, you know, we can have a little bit more hand in taking care of each other, but if you don't know what your own needs are because you haven't spent time in that like healthy egoic space, you're never really going to be able to get help effectively from others either because you won't know what you need. So Aries season, this first chunk of April, great time to just really try to land into your own sense of what your needs are. And then from there, you've got an interesting balancing act this April of, closing off the last season, enjoying the harvest and the wealth and the riches and the emotional like happiness and the physical pleasure to a point until it's no longer useful, and then you get to roll on to whatever's next and exit the hothouse and see what's up for you. So interesting time for you, Libra. I'm sure you're gonna pull through. You're gonna be great. Best of luck, and I will see you next month. Take care.